Cheers, everyone. Howdy, y'all. That is a shout out to the doctor. I am coming to you today with a response to a tag video. I was tagged by the amazing Murfinator. Ironically, a year ago, I entered his contest for your top 10 comic book covers, and now he got tagged, and now he's tagged me. I think he got tagged. I don't think he started this tag. He got tagged in the 5 favorite comic book covers. So last time I did my 5 favorite superhero covers that I own. 10 favorite superhero covers that I own. I'll link down to my old contest entry probably down below. This time I decided, because I'm kind of on a jag to get more black and white magazines and magazine-sized comics in general, I thought I'd do my top 5 favorite at the moment comic magazine covers. You know, magazine size comics. Most of them are black and white, but some are in color. And I only have about 2 short boxes full of those right now. Although I picked up some more ones today, and I will show you those later. So I thought that gave me, it's both something I'm very interested in right now and gave me something limited to take a look at. So when I looked through it, I ended up with a pile of about 9 favorites. So let me show you my 4 runners-up first. Most of these are kind of beat up reader copies, so I've taken some of them out of the bags already. This is The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, with a painting of Bruce Lee in action by none other than Neil Adams, and it looks really amazing. I feel like Adams better than most people who are known for their drawing. His drawing style translates really well into paintings. It still looks very Neil Adams-esque, if you will. It has all the movement and qualities of line somehow, even though it's a color painting. I'm not sure. I should look it up. I should look into his painting career, find out what materials he used, if this is acrylic or watercolor or something else. I don't think it would be oil, but I don't know enough about these things. The whole cover is kind of... This is a really beat-up copy. What issue is this? I think this might be, issue number 1. I'll have to find a nicer copy sometime. I'd like to collect the whole run of The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. But that's kind of on a back burner for me at the moment. So my number 2 runner-up was this Planet of the Apes. There were a lot of Planet of the Apes covers I wanted to pick. I have 29 issues of the Planet of the Apes black and white magazine. But this one definitely jumped out at me. It's very visually striking, and it also looks to be about the escape from the Planet of the Apes. And while the original Planet of the Apes was my favorite movie, I have a special place in my heart for Escape from the Planet of the Apes. It's like an inverse nightmare. It's the nightmare as if you were a monkey in our world instead of a man in the monkey's world. So anyway, I really like that cover. And there's a couple of covers, I think all for Rampaging Hulk, that are by Jim Starlin, all of which are excellent. I think of the ones I have, this is my favorite. Just very powerful kind of color and lighting and Jim Starlin's rendering. It's a little less obviously Jim Starlin than, say, the Neil Adams is obviously Neil Adams, but if you look closely at it, you see the Jim Starlin kind of feel to it. And then I think this artist was named John Bolton. Is that correct? I have to look into it. But he did a number of interesting... He probably does the interiors here. A number of interesting black and white stories, and he does very good paintings. That has quite the watercolor look, but I don't know. I don't know if that's watercolor or what that is. I guess there could be a whole book just about the covers of those, especially the Marvel, but of Creepy and Eerie and all the magazine-sized comics of the 70s and 80s. 60s, 70s, and 80s, I guess. That would be really interesting. Speaking of one that's not black and white, now we're on to my top 5. I love this Barry Windsor Smith illustration. Not a painting, really, I don't think. But by the standards of the day, I don't know how it was colored, but colored in a much different kinds of tones than you would normally see in comic book drawings. So anyway, this is Epic Illustrated. That was a color magazine that I think was meant to compete with Heavy Metal, and also to hold on to Marvel's top creators and give them a place to do creator-owned work. Anyway, I just love this cover by Barry Smith. At the time, I think he was just doing collectible prints. That was he was sort of riding on his popularity after Conan for seems like a decade or more, doing stuff for collectors. And there's an article in here about his collectible prints, I believe. Or an interview. So he pushed his what they call the pre-Raphaelite style all the way and did these prints. And eventually he came back to comics, with Machine Man and Weapon X, and then on to the Valiant, all those Valiant comics that he was involved in. So so that's my first of the favorites. Is this in the right order? I guess they're all so good it's hard to really order them, but I love Boris Vallejo, I don't know how to say his name. He always just signed Boris. I love his Conan paintings, and a lot of his other fantasy paintings. This is kind of brutal and sexist, but I just love the look of this painting, and it makes me want to enter the world of Conan and have a really wild Conan story. I always remember this cover. In fact, I sometimes in my imagination would think this is the cover for issue Savage Sword #1, which was also a Boris cover, but this is number 10. And then, also hard to choose, I have a lot of Spirit black and white magazines, and most of them feature new covers by Will Eisner. This is one of them, and I find it a particularly powerful one. Kind of contains the sexiness and the emotion and the craziness of the Spirit and his relationship with his femme fatales, and it actually opens up to be a the back and front cover illustration, with the henchman in the background and that sense of depth and everything. It's just a pretty amazing painting. I assume that he did line drawings and then watercolor over them, or maybe some other kind of dyes or something, but they have a special quality, especially for the time that they came out. These semi-painted, as I think of them, covers for the Spirit. So that's definitely a favorite amongst the ones that I own. Oh, and here's a really awesome one. Heavy Metal has so many awesome covers. I probably have only about 10 issues of Heavy Metal at this point. Some with some very cool stuff, even a Mobius issue or two, cover or two. But this one I find really striking. It's not by a French artist, it's by a British artist named Jim Burns, or Jim Burns, who I think had quite the career doing science fiction paperback covers in England, and was only rarely seen in the United States. And he has a very intense style, and you have to realize this was done long before computer graphics and Photoshop, I believe, so he must have had to paint all those textures himself. It's interesting, you fold it out, it works, but it works very well in this kind of half shot. I don't know why, but I find it very powerful. And the colors are just very intense and unusual seeming somehow for a magazine cover. And then finally, #1 is kind of a sentimental favorite. It's a very good cover too, but anyway, it's hard for me to judge if I'm being overly sentimental about it. It's Planet of the Apes #1. A great, almost photorealistic painting by someone Larkin. Jim Larkin? No, I can't remember his first name. I think he did a lot of Marvel covers, Marvel painted black and white covers for the black and white magazines in his day. But along with, I just remember being so excited when this magazine came out. I was in what do you call it, sleepaway camp, and my grandmother mailed me a copy. I told her the things I had to get, and she lived near the only comic book store that I knew of in existence, which was in Manhattan. She lived in Manhattan, and there was a comic book store like 6 or 8 blocks from her house called Super Snipe. And to my knowledge at the time, there was no other comic book store in the world. Anyway, she was able to go there and get this for me and mail it to me in camp, and it was so exciting. This is not actually the copy she mailed to me, unfortunately, but it still has that nostalgic feel, and it's a very intense cover if you like Planet of the Apes. So those are my top covers. I will, let's see. Well, I'll tag some people right now. Let me tag Canon and Comics. Show us 5 favorite covers. And Rob Wise Guy. What is it? Rob Wise Guy 87? I always forget the number at the end of your name, Rob. But I'd love to see some of your favorite covers, your 5 favorite covers, if you haven't already been tagged. And finally, I'll tag SargeTD. So I assume with those 3 people, we'll get 3 very different sets of covers. So let me show you, earlier today, I went to I Like Comics in Vancouver, Washington, which is just an awesome place to buy back issues. And I searched through their oversized black and white comic book section and bought a few things. Not as much as I expected to buy. I guess I bought a few doubles too, which aren't in this pile anymore, of some spirits that I figured I'd want doubles of. But what I did do is complete my run of the Spirit oversized black and white magazine. This is number 40, which looks like just a blown up panel from the old 1940s comic. So that was not an original cover by, which is too bad, by Eisner. And then I got 41, which I believe ends the run of the Warren then Kitchen Sink Spirit magazine. This looks like it probably is a newer Eisner book drawing, but not one of those paintings either, or drawing paintings. So that's a bit of a shame, but still a fun cover. And I'm really glad to just have all of that. And I might make a video about a lot of the stuff in my Spirit collection sometime. And then who can resist the 50-cent bins? Good thing I didn't have too much time, or I would have gotten even more. But I dipped in I think I've mentioned before, I Like Comics has the biggest selection of 50-cent comics I've ever seen personally. It seems like enough to fill a smaller comic book store just with the 50-cent bins. And I started by looking for more at the kids' comics. And I don't know whether my daughter likes this or not, but it gives me a kick. This is Archie's kind of slight imitation of Mad Magazine called Madhouse Comics. And I don't know. It's like an Archie version of early Mad Magazine or something, or it wants to be, and I kind of enjoy that. And then I picked through the Harvey comics and ended up picking out some Richie Riches that intrigued me. Vault of Horror, Richie Rich Vault of Horror, that just seems kind of amusing. I think this is issue 2, and I think I actually have issue 1 of this. I saw it in my CLZ app when I uploaded this into it. So I need to read those and check out these 2 issues of Richie Rich, Vault of Mystery, not horror. But it seems again like it's kind of a little bit of a reference to those 60s and 70s DC mystery magazines or horror magazines. And then I got Richie Rich and Dollar the Dog, all part of my secret campaign to convince my wife to get me and my daughter a dog. Richie Rich Inventions. This is issue number 1. So I don't know how good it'll be, but it's kind of appealing to have a comic book that focuses on wacky inventions. So I'm hoping that'll be pretty cool. And then there is this little dot from the 70s. It's a bit bent. All of these ones are pretty beat up. But yeah. We're reading lots of Little Dot at bedtime along with Peanuts. So it's always good to get more. Luckily we're well stocked with Little Dot thanks to that anonymous gift that I did a video on a week ago or so, and SargeTD and things I keep finding. So okay, and then I found a run of comics that kind of excited me. I've been meaning to pick up Master of Kung Fu when Gene Day was the artist, and apparently he did from 101 to 120 maybe, and I managed to pick up 102 through 116, so a large chunk of the Gene Day penciled and sometimes inked run. I think before 100 he was the inker over Mike Zeck, but he was a very exciting artist and unfortunately died apparently around the age 30 of a heart problem. And hopefully it's not because he spent so much time working so hard on his drawings that he didn't take care of himself. I don't know. But anyway, there is 102. And it's hard to say, in Master of Kung Fu who I like better, Gene Day or Paul Galassi. They're quite different, although there are some similarities. They both might be influenced by Jim Steranko in different ways, especially layout-wise, although I would almost say Gene Day is more directly going to the source of Will Eisner, I think. I think he's very much a son of Will Eisner in terms of his... you can't really tell it by these covers, but by his interesting layouts. I might show you the inside of one or two of these. So anyway, I was excited to get all of these, so easily and for 50 cents a piece. You can't really go wrong. I haven't checked out the condition of all of these yet, but I mostly tend to look for nice-ish reader copies is really what I go for. And I don't know if the Marvel omnibus of Master of Kung Fu will eventually encompass these. I mean, these are over issue 100, so there's going to have to be a lot of volumes of Master of Kung Fu before they get to the Gene Day. I know they have 3 volumes planned, but that probably would only get them up just before issue 100, I think. Maybe 90 issues or 80 issues. And I think Gene Day worked for a long time in underground and semi-professional and self-published kind of stuff before he broke in with Marvel. Apparently he was a good friend of Dave Sim and actually kind of influenced Dave Sim to pursue his career more. So it's interesting. He really kind of had this short time at Marvel. And I haven't really found... I know he did other stuff like Skywald and some other things. He did a few issues of Star Wars for Marvel. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I guess I may have some of these issues already, but finding them all in the row, I just grabbed them all. Here, this is kind of a taste of the crazy layouts and the amount of work he put into everything. Everything is so detailed in a Gene Day comic. I actually was looking around on looking around on my Marvel Unlimited app, and he did quite a bit of inking of other things like Thor and Marvel 2-in-1 when George Perez was writing it. But I think it's really his pencils, or his layouts, so to speak, that are his strongest aspect. Let's see what some of these other ones look like inside. I think it'd be great to have an artist edition of Gene Day art. I don't know if there's a strong enough demand for that, since he had such a short career in mainstream comics. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging into these some more. Let's see. See if I can quickly just find some interesting pages. So yeah, if you happen to see these in a cheap bin somewhere, just as eye candy, interior art eye candy, they can't really be beat. Like I said, issues 101 through 120, I believe. Okay, I may find time and energy to do another video soon. I hope everyone is doing really well, and I'll talk